if I download it to my phone, is this thing going to be able to read my emails?
I mean, I don't think so. It's just programmed to zip around the store and vacuum while we're closed.
Robots doing the grunt work is fine by me, but why do I need another app?
I'm actually starting to wonder if your emails are all they're cracked up to be. Welcome to Rewind Video. I'm Bob.
I'm Rob.
And we love movies. Good ones, bad ones, old ones, new ones, movies that are high-tech, DIY movies, and everything in between. Rob, I want to run something past you.
Good.
Yeah.
I deserve that.
I was drinking at the bar the other day. Had a little epiphany. Felt like something of a stroke of genius. So I grabbed a napkin, sketched out my idea, and I'd like to share it with you now. Something that I think we can use here at the store, and if it works, maybe roll it out to other businesses around the country. You know what I'm saying?
If it's a pet rock, we already have that.
No, this is better than that. This is some real Shark Tank shit. You ready?
Okay.
All right, imagine a small hook affixed to the inside of the door at our entranceway.
Okay.
From the hook, little bit of string, yarn, rope maybe,
Okay.
and then a bell at the end of that rope. And so what happens is people come in, bell rings, we're alerted, we can put
Yes.
down our books,
This
our
is
yeah,
going well so far.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
totally doesn't require electricity, fully automatic.
So what part did you invent? Did you invent the bell?
No, just everything coming together
Tying the bell to a string
and affixed
and
to the door.
hook.
Yeah. All in one.
I'm going to give this one to you, Bob.
Store doorbell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's going to be a big hit.
Good. I'm gonna
We can
work
probably
on my
use it,
pitch and get some prototypes together.
Put it on the bathroom doors.
Yeah. And we'll see. We'll see how people like it.
Yes, they're going to love it.
I hope that they welcome it as warmly as they do our picks for the staff recommendation shelf, which you and I are in charge of keeping stocked with movies that are deserving of our customers' attention. Each time we shuffle in some new films, we adhere to a theme, and this week's theme is gadgets.
We just need to crank the podcast up a little bit to get it started.
Yeah.
And you'll be good to go.
Spin the wheel.
Yeah.
Prime the engine.
Yes.
This was a fun one.
We live in the age of gadgets.
We do. I mean, I'm sure that people are like, oh, gadgets. Which James Bond movies did they pick? None. We didn't pick any.
None. Inspector Gadget, not on the list.
Not on the list. Yeah. I think we have some surprising picks.
Yeah.
Maybe some not so surprising picks, but we definitely steered clear of the low-hanging fruit, as we often do.
But our lives, we are just awash in gadgets nowadays. We're using gadgets to make this podcast.
Yeah.
Several gadgets. I mean, there's within
Surrounded
arm's
by
length. Just surrounded by gadgets. Gadgets are so cheap nowadays.
Yeah.
They're so available.
Right.
That can be a good or a bad thing. But yeah, gadgets are something that we all have.
So I found myself wondering something while we were choosing movies for this, and especially while I was watching one of my movies, because I've got one film on my list that definitely has something that qualifies as a gadget in it, but also some other things that, depending on your definition, people might say, that's not a gadget. So I'm curious what you think of as a gadget. Like, what are the parameters, if you have any?
That's something I thought about a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know, because we have some gadgets tonight that are kind of like robots, but they're not like humanoid robots. I feel like when it's a humanoid robot, it's no longer a gadget, right?
Right.
But if it's like the thing that we have vacuuming the store, that's a gadget.
That's
But
a gadget.
It also is a robot.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
So I don't know if it's a hard thing to nail down.
Yeah, I think it has to be novel in some way, shape, or form. And I think prior to this theme, I might have thought of it as small in size. But my definition might be evolving somewhat. And Yeah, I think that it takes some technical wizardry, perhaps, much like the store doorbell, to bring a proper gadget to life.
The question that the people are demanding we answer, though, is what is a gizmo?
That's a great question. I mean, you might also wonder what a thingamajig is.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think a gizmo has to make some sort of noise.
Yeah.
I think a gizmo maybe doesn't have to be electronic, but I think it has to make a noise to be a gizmo.
Do you think like beeps and boops or more like whirring sounds?
Beeps and boops, bleeps and blops.
Yeah.
All these things, dings.
Yeah.
Probably not the bell thing that you came up with, but
clearly that's a gadget. Okay, well, it seems
you
like
can be both.
Yeah, the Venn diagram. There's some overlap in the circles. All right, well, I think that by the time we finish with these 6 movies, people are going to have a very clear picture in their mind of what a gadget is, because I can't think of 6 better movies to pick.
Well, I think you're overestimating the customers.
Maybe.
Yeah. But, okay. Well, I guess I'll get us started here.
Please do.
I'm going to start us in the year of 1998.
Oh, boy. I think Tony Scott was making movies around that time.
He was, yeah. And we were starting to get some gadgets in that time. Gadgets were starting to pop up.
Yeah.
1998, the movie is Enemy of the State. This is filed under not safe for work.
Yeah, for sure.
Back of the box. Get comfortable because this is quite long.
Okay.
The life of labor lawyer and dedicated family man Robert Bobby Dean is turned upside down after a chance meeting with a college buddy while holiday shopping. Unbeknownst to Dean, he's just been burdened with a videotape of a congressman's assassination. Hot on the trail of this tape is a ruthless group of national security agents commanded by a belligerently ambitious NSA official named Reynolds. Using satellite surveillance, bugs, and other sophisticated snooping devices, the NSA infiltrates every facet of Dean's existence, tracing each physical and digital footprint he leaves while also framing him for murder. With the help of the mysterious Brill, he attempts to throw the NSA off his trail and prove his innocence.
I feel like I've gotten less information from 2-minute-long trailers.
I mean, I'm done. So whatever your next movie is, you can just go now. I think I've used my allotted time.
Yeah, that's
that is outrageous. That is
Too much.
That is the whole plot.
Yeah, that's it. That's
like
everything.
I could not have explained it that well. No way, not a chance.
No.
Incredible. Here's the tagline: "It's not paranoia if they're really after you." No. Which it doesn't quite work. It's not like terrible, but like it's not really.
Yeah, it leaves something to be desired.
Because there's nobody's like paranoid in this movie. Like they're getting chased, and then they're like, well, they're after us. Like there's nobody like, oh my God, people are going to come after us.
Yeah.
So this is Tony Scott's political paranoia thriller starring Will Smith, Gene Hackman, and I would say, fairly hinged Jon Voight.
Far more hinged than we're used to with that guy. I have a question for you. Do you think that Will Smith's character went by the name Bobby D when he was when he's among his friends?
Here's the thing: when you start putting people's names on the back of the box like that, you're supposed to. It should be like meaningful or something. Like I've seen this movie so many times, I could not have told you what anybody's name is. Right. Why do they got to give me his name and his nickname?
Right.
Bobby Dean.
And then they only give you Reynolds.
Yes. This is an unofficial or spiritual sequel to The Conversation from 1974.
So I wondered that.
Yeah.
Is it? I mean, is Gene Hackman playing the same character?
I don't think so. So there's a part of this movie where he gives his backstory, and I don't think that necessarily lines up with what is going on in The Conversation. I haven't checked into it.
Right.
There is a part where they show a picture of Gene Hackman as a young man, and it is from The Conversation.
Okay.
But also there is a scene in this movie that is just a direct homage to the surveillance scene in The Conversation. And it's
Yeah.
just like, it's so similar, and it's the same character kind of like as an older man. So like, yes, it's not official, but I think it's like pretty much understood that this was Tony Scott going like, hey, I'm going to do my own version of what this is. And they kind of just tied the universe together in that way.
See, I thought perhaps they cast Gene in this role because, he's adept with technologies, spying on people.
Gene Hackman personally?
Hackman. So, I mean,
that's exactly what Tony Scott was doing.
Yeah, when you pair that with the Conversation tie-in, I got to believe that Tony Scott was just like furiously masturbating as he landed on Gene Hackman for this role.
I hope that isn't how it happened, but maybe they both rest in peace. So this is like kind of Will Smith's last movie before his status as the can't miss movie star was starting to get a little bit wobbly. Because before this, he did Bad Boys, which was a moderate hit, and then Independence Day, which made him like the biggest star in Hollywood. Men in Black was fucking gigantic.
Yeah.
This was, not on that level, but like still, it was like this is Will Smith like taking it to the next level and working with like a more serious director, doing a slightly more serious project. After this is when he turned down The Matrix to do Wild Wild West. And so like after that, it was like iRobot and Bagger Vance and Hitch.
Yeah.
Bad Boys 2 is in there too, but like the luster was like
more misses than hits.
More miss, yeah. And then he stopped taking chances, He was just kind of like, I don't know. I don't want to say, he was never washed up.
Right.
But like he wasn't this guy after this.
Yeah.
In 1998, the surveillance capabilities that this movie depicts were considered fantasy.
I think they still are. I mean, the idea of like enhance.
Well, that's a little silly, but the idea that like a government has like instant access to all this information on anyone at any time was like very much reserved for conspiracy theorists. And the NSA, after this movie came out, they pushed back hard and they're like, of course this stuff is just like science fiction nonsense. But then 9/11 happened, and then the Patriot Act and the War on Terror, and in the ensuing years, we've found out that like this is actually like not that far off from like what they're doing at the NSA. Like obviously like this kind of stuff is like blatantly illegal, but we also know that doesn't stop people from doing shit.
Yeah.
So they have the capability of doing almost everything we see in this movie.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
I imagine that the only thing that isn't accurate is the fact that the NSA headquarters reek of the same type of headquarters that the beekeeper hackers are working from, minus the casino sounds.
Right.
I mean, it's like a fun house.
Well, they definitely have like a splinter group. They've commandeered some equipment and stuff that like they're not being checked, but like they have like a whole command center. And,
Right.
So this entire story revolves around gadgets.
Oh yeah.
The crime at the center of this movie was captured on a gadget. The evidence is smuggled away in a gadget.
Yep.
The NSA splinter group has an endless supply of gadgets. There's a lot of bugs, which are small microphones or cameras that get placed in an apartment or a business or something.
Or a shoe.
Or a shoe, yeah. And it's a way to spy on people discreetly. And so, like, the NSA is, like, they're doing that. They're also using all these other gadgets that are everywhere, like security cameras and private phone calls and whatnot.
ATM cameras and stuff like that, yeah.
But actually, nowadays, it's almost like if you wanted to spy on somebody, like, you wouldn't need any of those gadgets anymore.
No.
You just need to gain control of, like, the surveillance technology that everyone voluntarily carries around in their pocket at all time.
Yes.
So like, combine that with all the other like listening devices and cameras that we're constantly surrounded by that we put in our homes voluntarily a lot of times.
Yeah.
You don't need to plant gadgets anywhere. Everyone's just already carrying the shit around. You need to hire somebody that knows how to gain control of those gadgets.
I mean, it's, you're so right in terms of how easy it would be today. And it always cracks me up when I see people that have like tape over the camera on their phone. And I'm like, that's not the thing that you need to worry about. I mean, if you've ever had a conversation about squatty potties and then got served ads for squatty potties like later that day, you know that it's the microphone. And I mean,
well,
of course,
it is the camera too, I think, probably.
Also the camera and, of course, the GPS that's embedded. But like, we're constantly being watched if people wanted to. I
mean, yeah, it's like it's not. I mean, in the end, they do that. Whatever they're doing in the movie, they can do to you right now. And the scary thing is, they can do it retroactively. You know,
right?
If they're like, "Hey, we don't really like what the Rewind Video store has been doing lately. We're going to look at Robb's emails." Mm-hmm. And they can do it retroactively and look at your geolocation data and all that stuff and like piece together and make up some sort and like figure out some sort of crime that you could,
Yeah. And you're very private about your emails. So
private about my emails. I have such good emails. This is one of the quintessential Tony Scott movies to me. I don't think it's in like the top level of his filmography. No. But this is kind of the beginning of the late part of his career where he was just like really pushing like what we think of as the Tony Scott style. Yeah. The fast cutting, the helicopter tracking shots, the coverage from every conceivable angle. Yeah. So this is when he like really started to like go in that direction. He did like Spy Game and Man on Fire and Domino and Deja Vu. So like that's I think one of the more interesting eras of his career, and this is kind of the movie that kicked it all off.
Yeah. I mean, it's an entertaining watch. I'm curious to know where you rated this. Because I'd seen this before, but it didn't hold up quite as well for me on a rewatch, and I think it's, for me, a runtime issue.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it gets a 3.5 on Letterboxd.
Okay.
115 people have in their 4 favorites. 24% agree with my 4-star rating, including Hydra Looney, who says, "This is what happens when you click agree to terms."
Yeah. That's
so I'm putting it up on the staff recommendation shelf this week for gadgets.
Yeah, I don't know. This movie dragged a little bit for me. Mm-hmm. This most recent watch, especially given how many times we see Barry Pepper angrily running toward the camera. But that reminds me that there is a crazy cast here. I mean, it's like a who's who from the 90s.
Yeah, that's the thing that Tony Scott is so great at is putting that ensemble together. There's not a lot of like traditional action set pieces.
No.
There's a couple gunfights.
Yeah.
But most of it's just like chasing and running and stuff. Yeah. And Tony Scott's so great with movement and action and stuff that you kind of don't realize that there's not really any action here. There's a big explosion.
There is.
So maybe that has something to do with the pacing issues. Like it seems like an action movie, but there's not a ton of action.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think I like the things about this that make it what it is enough that I really it's enough. Definitely a 4-star movie for me. But he also has several 5-star classics.
He does. You spoiled me with Tony Scott because we've seen some bona fide 5-star classics from his filmography. This is a 3-star movie for me, but I don't mind going back to it. Mm-hmm. I appreciate the spiritual successor to the conversation component, and it's always fun to see Gene Hackman
and to see Will Smith at the peak of his career.
Yeah.
And doing something that's not, Independence Day.
Right. Yeah. Well, fun pick. Love a Tony Scott movie. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go back a decade earlier to 1989.
Okay.
And I plucked my first movie from the spores, bacteria, and microscopic organisms section of the store.
That's a gross section.
It is. My first pick is Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I'm just going to warn you right now that 2 of my 3 taglines are abysmal this week. Here's the back of the box. When an inventor accidentally shrinks his children and their neighbors to the size of ants, the tiny kids must navigate a giant world filled with everyday dangers. As they struggle to survive in their own backyard, their parents must find a way to reverse the mishap before it's too late. Tagline, The most astonishing, innovative backyard adventure of all time. A lot of hyperbole there.
Yeah. Doesn't get it across.
I don't love it. Yeah. So this is directed by Joe Johnston. We're familiar with him.
We are.
And it's a family-friendly adventure film that that blends some science fiction with comedy. We also have Brian Yuzna attached to this, who has been on the shelf before with From Beyond. Yeah, friend of the shelf. Kind of
Society. He had something to do with Society too, right?
He did. Yeah, he might have directed it.
Maybe.
Not sure. He's definitely connected to it.
Yeah.
Film stars Rick Moranis as Wayne Zielinski, who's kind of an absent-minded inventor whose shrink ray accidentally miniaturizes his kids and the neighbor kids.
Whoops.
And, oopsie doopsie. And once that happens, we get a whole movie full of some crazy perspective on the backyard and some interesting set design.
A lot of bugs.
A lot of bugs.
Giant bugs.
Yeah. An ant-sized scorpion at one point, which is a little curious. Anyway, yeah, it's a movie that I watched countless times when I was growing up. And gadgets, of course, are very present here because Wayne Zielinski is an inventor, and the shrink ray, in my mind, is the central gadget. But his house is just full of all sorts of like Doc Brown related shit.
He's an irresponsible inventor.
Yes.
You can't just leave the shrink ray laying out like that. You got to at least lock the door or something. Put it in a closet.
Especially when the best thing that it's doing prior to getting hit with a baseball is detonating anything that's in front of it.
Exploding it.
Yeah.
But even if it works, what do you do? Like, you could lose your kids like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You
It's
lose
a
a lot
miracle
of
these kids don't die.
It really is. I mean, and we're confronted with that reality several times throughout the movie. But yeah, you can lose a couch. He lost a couch.
Nobody wants that.
Yeah.
Now, did they get into the is there like a reverse on it? Is that what he's doing this for industry, right?
Yes. He's expecting this to be the next store doorbell.
Yeah.
I mean, like he wants it to take off and
Bell on a string.
Yeah. And definitely plans to like market it, I suppose. Yeah. It's a little unclear.
I mean, I guess if this actually worked, it would be huge.
It would be
right?
huge.
I mean,
or small.
I was going to say to use a term, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it didn't seem like they were as sure about the getting bigger part until at the end of the movie. Like, well, I guess it'll work.
Well, it's right? I mean, it's funny because like
we'll just put it in reverse,
right? Just shift gears. I mean, it doesn't work, and then it accidentally works because it gets hit by a baseball, and then he destroys it and rebuilds it from like clock parts, and not only manages to make it work, but also make it work in reverse.
Yes.
So, I mean, like
all of which he should be doing behind closed dours, but he just
in a laboratory,
leaves it in the attic for his kids to fuck around with.
Right. So yeah, it's a mildly terrifying concept, and and it's pulled off with a lot of pretty incredible, I think, special effects for the time. A lot of practical stuff here, large scale set designs. Much of the giant world that the kids navigate was achieved through forced perspective and some miniatures and animatronics. Interestingly, Chevy Chase and John Candy turned down the role that Rick Moranis ended up in, and much like Rick Moranis' part in Ghostbusters, which John Candy was also up for, he said, "Nah, but you should talk to my friend Rick," and that's how he got both of those roles. This is an interesting bit of trivia. The Society for the Preservation of English Language and Literature awarded this movie with its 1989 dunce cap, citing the title's grammatical error of using the word shrunk instead of shrank. As word people, I figured we might get a laugh out of that.
I don't know if I agree with their stance on this.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're familiar with Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, but Honey, I Shrank the Kids doesn't quite have the same ring to it.
Yeah. I mean, fuck off. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is fine.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I'm one of the what do they call it? I'm more of a not a prescriptive word guy, more of a descriptive. I'm like, that's what people say. People say shrunk. That's the word. You know, like
12 items or less.
The rules need to change at a certain point. And I think of course, they didn't know this movie would change the world.
No. It did do very well.
I wonder if people like you. I mean, maybe that's just because we've heard it since we were kids. You know.
Yeah, perhaps. But I still think that in spite of the grammatical error, it's better than the original title that was considered for this, which was Teeny Weenies.
So gross. I retract my statement against the official English language people or whoever they were.
So why did I choose this? I find this as fun to watch now as it was when I was a kid. I did grow up with this. I know that you did not.
This was my first time seeing it.
Yeah, and I'm very curious what your take was. But I don't know. Rick Moranis was kind of at the top of his game at this period of time. And of course, you know, we didn't get a lot from him after this because he retired from acting to spend time with his family. But this is Rick doing what he does. And it's just, he's exactly the right guy for this role. I still like the practical effects here. And of course, you know, bursting with gadgets, much like Enemy of the State.
So many gadgets.
But I know we find ourselves talking about this a lot, and it'll probably come up again later tonight. But once again, we get a kids movie from the 80s with real stakes, some terrifying shit happening, and it makes for a fun adventure.
We got one coming later that has some like specific stuff I want to talk about.
Okay.
But, this movie is I gave it 3 stars.
Okay.
I think, and I can see myself going 4 one day. I think, like a lot of kids' movies, you kind of have to be on its vibe. And if it's something you grew up with, you understand the vibe it's on, and you kind of understand what you're in for.
Yeah.
And I thought this movie was going to be just a little bit kind of bigger in scope. I don't know why. I didn't realize they were just going to the backyard, and that was the whole movie. Yeah. And I think when it was that, I was just expecting a little bit more, and so this movie felt smaller to me. It felt smaller to me than I was expecting. I did like it. I liked this kind of 80s kids movie.
Yeah, for sure. So this was a hit when it came out. It grossed $22 million in its first week of release, which surpassed Disney's previous highest single week record, which went to Three Men and a Baby from 1987.
Another classic.
But yeah, this went on to gross $130 million in theaters.
That was like $10 billion back then.
It was huge. Yeah. And it had a little something to do with the fact that they paired the short film Tummy Trouble, which was connected to the Roger Rabbit universe, to the front of this. And it happened to open on the same weekend as Batman. So, a lot of people were like, oh, I can't get tickets to Batman. I guess I'll go see Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
That's kind of the same thing, right, kids?
Right. But it definitely took off. This averages a 3.2 on Letterboxd. I have it at 4 stars, along with 15% of other members. 89 folks have this in their list of four favorites. And I plucked a 3.5-star review from user Matt Singer, who said, Honey, I made a genuinely disturbing film full of horrific practical effects and marketed it to children. Which sums it up.
It worked, too. They made at least one sequel, right?
They made 2, and there was going to be a 4th. Rick Moranis is in all of them. There's Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, and Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves.
That's right.
But right when they were about to get the 4th film rolling, the pandemic hit, and things kind of fell apart and haven't come back together. Okay. But it was going to star Josh Gad as Wayne's younger son, Nick, and Rick Moranis was going to reprise his role.
Nice. It's always good to see a comma in a title also.
Yes. Gotta love it.
Okay. I'm going to bring us up to the year of 2022. The movie is Nope.
Yeah.
This is in the Mighty Big Sombreros section of the store. You can also find the Three Amigos there.
Right.
Here's the back of the box. It's a complete opposite of Enemy of the State. Residents in a lonely gulch of inland California bear witness to an uncanny, chilling discovery. Done.
Love that.
Done.
Love that. Yes. Take notes.
Tagline? Not so sure about this one. What's a bad miracle?
What the fuck?
Is that about this movie?
I don't know. Doesn't feel like it is.
I don't know. Like, did somebody talk about a bad miracle in this movie? I've seen it several times. I don't remember.
I don't think
Big question marks. I don't know what that's all about.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is Jordan Peele's sci-fi thriller with Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer as a brother and sister who run a ranch supplying horses for Hollywood productions. And a series of strange and tragic events leads them to a discovery of a UFO that is kind of hanging around their property. And they decide that they need some Oprah-level footage of this UFO. And so they bring in a dude that works for Fry's at the Geek Squad or whatever they call it. Mm-hmm. And then a cranky cinematographer played by the always welcome Michael Wincott.
Love Michael Wincott.
Friend of the shelf. One of our favorites.
Yes.
This is Jordan Peele wading into like summer blockbuster territory.
Yeah.
You know, this had a budget of $68 million. Us had a $20 million budget, but this is him working at a much bigger scope. And this is another hit. He's kind of one of the few bankable directors.
Yeah.
You know, just on his name, they put his name, early in the trailer.
Yeah, and they'll do that even when he's like producing a movie these days because
yeah.
it's got such cachet.
So it'll be interesting to see what he does next because I imagine he has a lot of freedom to do kind of whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Within a certain budget. So the first thing they do to capture the UFO is they call a gadget guy.
Right.
You know, if you're trying to do something like this and you're not yourself a gadget guy, then you have to call a gadget guy.
You do.
So they set up this whole video system on this property, including like a central command center in order to keep track of all the information that's coming from all the gadgets. Except the problem is the UFO can actually control the gadgets. It has gadget control.
Nobody saw that coming.
Nobody saw that coming. So that's why they have to bring in Michael Wincott because he has this a vintage film camera that can capture it without electricity.
Also a gadget.
That is also a gadget, yes.
Yeah.
But it's one that the UFO cannot control.
Right. Much like the store doorbell.
Yeah. I don't know, that string's been doing some weird things. So I think at first this movie kind of seemed a little inscrutable.
Yeah.
I think that's intentional. It's I think Jordan Peele is like he's really good at keeping you guessing for as long as he can about whatever he can.
Yeah.
You know, a good example of that is the alien scene in the barn.
Yeah.
It's a very scary scene and you're like, oh fuck, like shit is about to go down. Like I don't know what this is all about.
Yeah.
And then a couple minutes later, you're like, oh, it's just a total misdirection, and he completely pulls the rug out from underneath. And I feel like the whole movie is that in a sense, because it's just like, it seems so convoluted. But then as you sit with it and go back to it and like break it down, it's actually just like a really simple monster story.
Yeah. I talked some shit on this when we were covering Get Out, and after this rewatch, I do feel that I was not giving it the credit that it deserves.
But I think that's kind of part of. I mean, it's not the movie's fault, but the movie is that. Like, it takes a minute to sink in. I think.
Yeah.
Like it has these really complicated themes and characters and the story behind these people and everything. And I think that's just like, I don't know. I think if you that's kind of the layer around it, you know?
Yeah.
You have to crack through that to like see the monster story and to make sense of like the other stuff.
Yeah.
And also like he's really good at confronting these big ideas in his movies, but also in a way that feels mysterious. You know, like if there's something about it that feels unresolved. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like what a lot of 70s horror movies do, which is, you know, some of his biggest influences. But I feel like there's something about his movies that like there's something bigger going on here, and you never quite understand.
You're absolutely right, and I wonder if we're aware of that phenomenon because it seems that the marketing of all of his movies is usually at odds with what the film is actually about. And like with this, you're led to believe, oh, we're going to get Jordan Peele's UFO movie or like his home invasion movie with Us. And it's never quite that. It almost feels, I don't know if that's his intention, because I'm sure he's involved in like cutting the trailers, but it almost feels like he's doing a much more subtle and deliberate and thoughtful thing than M. Night Shyamalan is usually trying to do. And
I don't know. Yeah, I didn't even like put those two together.
Yeah.
But I think like even going to the back of the box, I think like it's meant to be mysterious.
It is. It is.
Maybe that's why the tagline means something that like we're not picking up.
Perhaps.
But like, yeah, like I remember like leading up to this movie, nobody knew what it was about. Nobody would say anything. The script was secret. Everyone, like Jordan Peele would be like, oh, it's about a small town or whatever he would say, it's a farm movie or a Western or something. And even like watching the movie, you're like, it's not quite what I thought it was going to be. I still don't know really what it is. It takes a minute to be like, oh, it's like a monster movie with like some fucked up Hollywood shit mixed in. You know? So yeah, Nope is rated 3.7 overall on Letterboxd. 16,000 people have it in their 4 favorites, and 30% agree with my 4-star rating, including Dylan Gorzin, who says, "Gonna tell my kids this is Don't Look Up." So I'm putting it up on the staff recommendation shelf this week for gadgets.
I'm glad you did. I needed to give this one another watch, and I agree with your 4-star rating. It is a 4-star movie. And I think it's moved into second place for me among his 3 features. I'm very curious to see what's coming next, but yeah, this is a good film. And if you don't know what you're getting from it, best to go in blind as possible.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm staying somewhat modern with my second pick as well. And we're only going back to 2018 for this. I chose Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Okay.
Let me give you the back of the box. Struggling to find his place in the world while juggling school and family, Brooklyn teenager Miles Morales is unexpectedly bitten by a radioactive spider and develops unfathomable powers just like the one and only Spider-Man. While wrestling with the implications of his new abilities, Miles discovers a super collider created by the madman Wilson Kingpin Fisk, causing others from the Spider-Verse to be inadvertently transported to his dimension. Tagline, "More than one wears the mask." Yeah, it's fine.
I don't hate it.
Yeah, same. So this was directed by 3 guys, Bob Perschetti, Peter Ramsey, and Rodney Rothman. It's also got Lord and Miller attached to it. Yeah. I think they were producing and also had a hand in the screenplay.
I mean, they were kind of almost above the title names for this movie.
Totally. I remember thinking that they directed it.
Yeah, kind of the Jordan Peele of animation.
Right. But yeah, it is an animated feature, and we get Shameik Moore as Miles Morales. Jake Johnson is Peter B. Parker. Haley Steinfeld shows up here. I mean, the cast is actually extensive, and we'll get into that. That's one of the reasons that I love this. But also, the animation style really kind of groundbreaking here. They used a combination of 3D animation and some hand-drawn techniques to make this feel like a living comic book. That was the goal, which, for a superhero movie is a breath of fresh air compared to just the stale stuff that the MCU has been churning out for years.
It's really cool looking.
It's a beautiful movie. But in addition to that, the story's pretty fresh. It's got some emotion to it. It's fun. It's funny. Like I said, I much prefer this to anything that the MCU has delivered. But how does it fit the theme? So the gadget that I had in mind when I chose this was the iconic web slinger,
Yeah.
which, I mean,
There's a lot of those in this movie.
fundamental to Spider-Man lore. And I know that not every iteration of Spider-Man has him using like a mechanical web slinger, but that's
an area of controversy as far as I know.
Yeah.
You might want to be careful what you say about that.
I probably am going to piss people off. You might get some emails.
Buddy, you don't want to know.
But yeah, the web slingers are truly a gadget, I mean,
Yeah.
like tiny thing fits around your
Definitional
wrist. Yeah.
gadget.
Fires some webs. And of course, we have Miles Morales learning to be Spider-Man here. So wrapping his head around these web slingers is part of his journey to becoming Spider-Man. But I guess, this was the movie that had me questioning gadgets
Yes,
because
why?
you also have a spider character coming from the future in the form of Penny Parker, who has like a mech suit that could constitute a gadget, and then
That counts.
You do
A mech suit? Yeah, it's a gadget.
It's gadgets.
I think it's like, can you gadget around with it? Right. Right?
I think you
You
can.
can gadget around with it. Like you
Yeah.
can gadget around with the robot a little bit.
For sure.
But not maybe, you know what I mean?
It makes some funny faces. It's got some weird
Yeah.
weapons that come out of doors and stuff. And I mean,
it's
that
gadgety,
feels
or maybe
gadgety.
definitely has gadgets attached to it.
Well, of course, that begs the question, does the Super Collider constitute a gadget? And that, I feel, is too big.
No.
Not a
You
gadget.
can't gadget around with a super collider.
No. You can't even pick it up and move it.
No.
It's just kind
Can't
of
move by
attached.
itself. It's
Yeah.
just there. It's a immovable object.
Okay. Well, we agree then. Yeah. Super Collider, not a gadget. Penny Parker's mech suit, definitely a gadget.
Yeah.
Web slingers, gadgets.
Oh, for sure.
Good. Okay.
Send your angry emails to Bob. I don't want to hear about it.
So I already mentioned the animation style here, but the voice cast. So beyond just the three main characters, we get a pretty stellar cast. Mahershala Ali is here, John Mulaney's here, Catherine Hahn, Nicolas Cage, Zoe Kravitz, Lily Tomlin, Brian Tyree Henry. It's stellar. Yeah. I mean, there's just a ton of big names here, and they'll do a great job. It was announced shortly after Stan Lee's death that this was his last voice role. It might not have been his. I think he maybe showed up in an MCU movie after this, but this is chock full of Easter eggs. If you're a Spider-Man fan, you can kind of pause this at any point and just find stuff that the animators and the writers worked in to just give the fanboys something to love.
For the nerds.
Yeah. Why did I choose this? So we don't bring a lot of superhero movies to the shelf.
No, not at all.
They don't come very often whatsoever. But I do think this one was worthy of a nomination, mostly because it's, in my opinion, so far superior to most of the other superhero stuff we've gotten in recent memory. There are a lot of gadgets here. But beyond the connection to the theme, I just love a lot of what it's doing. It's smart. It's got swagger. I think it benefits from being animated. Not to say that they couldn't shoot this, but it just feels better because it's an animated feature, I think.
Yeah.
And if you enjoyed this, the sequel is a great follow up. So I'm curious. I know you're not a big superhero guy. You're not a big Spider-Man guy. How did you like this?
I'm not a big animation guy.
Right?
I did like this.
Yeah.
It's still a 3-star movie. I like the Lord and Miller vibe. I like the jokiness, the kind of slight ironic detachment. I've never been into Spider-Man. I don't like the wise talking teenager aspect to him necessarily, which is kind of like the whole character.
Yeah.
I kind of figured out watching this that I just don't like superpowers and superheroes.
Yeah.
I just don't care about that. I feel like it just takes all the stakes out of everything.
Yeah.
And it's just like anytime he was fighting one of the bad guys or whatever, I was just kind of like, whatever, like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, there's no stakes here. Like, they're both superheroes. I know everyone's going to be fine or not and come back, you know? It's like, who cares? But like but I did enjoy this. This is a really fun movie.
Yeah, it's got some good emotional stakes and some surprises here. I think they do some things with the broader Spider-Man universe that you don't see in the live action stuff, and they even give you some fun twists on familiar characters, which is always nice to see. This does average a whopping 4.4 on Letterboxd, which actually feels about right to me. I really love this. There are 91,000 people with this on their list of 4 favorites, and I picked a 5-star review from the user Ellie, where she said, "I don't like spiders, and I don't like men. Yet this is one of my favorite films of 2018. Curious."
Interesting. Good combination.
Real head scratcher.
All right. I'm going to take us to the year of 1986.
Oh, don't go there.
I'll be stuck in the 80s.
Before emails.
I think emails existed before most people had emailed.
Right.
The movie is Chopping Mall. This is filed under Gadgets Gone Bad.
That is accurate.
Here's the back of the box. A group of teenagers that work at the mall all get together for a late-night party in one of the stores. When the mall goes on lockdown before they can get out, the robot security system activates after a malfunction and goes on a killing spree. One by one, the 3 bots try to rid the mall of the, quote, intruders. The only weapons the kids can use are the supplies in other stores, or if they can make it till morning when the mall opens back up.
I mean, high stakes.
Yes.
High stakes.
Tagline: where shopping costs you an arm and a leg.
Love it.
Yes.
Winner.
That's a good
Ding,
one.
ding, ding.
Yeah. Put it on the front of the box in bright red lettering.
100%.
Looks like blood. So this is a shocky sci-fi horror movie about a mall that's being controlled by robots at night to, I guess, subdue any burglars who break in.
These robots are not vacuuming.
I feel like they could.
They probably could, but they're not.
They're not. They should be. Like they there's some floor messes that need to be cleaned up.
No doubt.
Even though this mall, even like so they're like patrolling the mall at night, but this movie also makes abundantly clear that this mall is fucking locked down.
Yes.
Like once it closes and everybody's supposed to be out, it is locked down like a fucking nuclear weapons facility.
Oh yeah.
Right? But I guess they also
Pentagon level security.
they also need robots in there to do something. Mm-hmm. I'm not exactly sure why they need both. This is also I think this is the first day that these robots are doing this. That's the impression I get.
They don't seem very seasoned.
Yeah. There's no supervision whatsoever. I mean, it seems I feel like this is the first time and they're like, all right, like turn the robots on, we're going home.
Yeah.
And, like, I'd never seen them in action.
Yeah. Well, nobody's getting into the mall because of the security.
Yeah.
And so, like, we'll just let them roam around.
That's
see what
true.
happens.
Yeah, there's nobody here, right? And the system clearly hasn't been tested for effectiveness or safety because, it's supposed to leave the employees alone. But like the very first employee it encounters, it's like, show me your badge. She's like, here's my badge. And it's like, no, motherfucker. So like there's no evidence that it has ever worked.
No. Flaws in the design.
A lot of this, I guess, is attributed to the bolt of lightning that hit the mall.
Maybe.
Because I guess lightning is evil.
Yeah.
Which is something we've seen in a lot of horror movies. Lightning strikes and evil shit happens.
Monsters come to life. Robots go bad.
Yeah. So this seems like a class of 1999 situation. Where it's like the powers that be kind of like got talked into this robot security system. Like they thought they could save a few bucks, or like they thought it was easier to have this high tech solution, but like never bothered to see if it works, or if it's going to be like outright dangerous to have. But this does show you the danger of putting your too much trust into your gadgets, right? Like, especially like you don't even know what they're capable of doing or what they're supposed to do.
Right.
They're not supposed. These robots aren't supposed to be killing people, but they are.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, they have gadgets of their own. They have, like, things to electrocute people, things that can stab people in the neck and cut their throats.
They're prepared for anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
Even though they're explicitly supposed to not kill people.
Yeah. Yeah. You could just throw a net over somebody.
Yeah, or just wait till the morning and then,
Right,
like, open the doors. But also, like, I don't know. It just seems like this. It seems like I understand that, like, your mall is important.
Right.
But you don't necessarily need to worry about this. I don't know. It seems like they're overreacting.
Yeah. I mean, like, if Hot Topic gets looted, how big of a problem is it?
Yeah, I don't get it. But I love a good 80s trashy horror movie.
Yeah.
You know me.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Death Spa, which I think is another evil lightning movie.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious they're having a party inside of a furniture store inside of a mall.
I mean, we were teenagers once. I think when you channel that mindset, it seems like a good idea.
We were never like 24-year-old teenagers, though.
That's true.
But I think it's also funny that, like, they're kind of having an orgy and they don't even realize it.
Right.
Like, yeah, we're just having this party. Like, we're all just, like, hooking up on like separate beds, but they try to make it seem like they're in different parts of the room, but they're all like
right there,
right
together.
next to each other.
Yes.
But there's gratuitous nudity. There's bad special effects, killer robots. I'm here for all of it.
All the stuff you want.
It's also 77 minutes long. But it's fun to be in a mall, especially an 80s mall.
Yeah.
I never worked in a mall, so I don't know if you have. I don't know if you can answer this.
No.
Do malls have locker rooms where people are, like, taking showers and, like, getting dressed?
So I know there's those, like, hallways behind the stores.
Yes.
And I always thought that's just how, like, you get in, you get out if you're an employee, but
Yeah.
I never thought that there were locker rooms.
That's
more of a
taking
Death
a
Spa
shower. Who's taking a shower after work at the mall before you go home?
Not me.
Not me either. Other things I've never seen in a mall before: a paint store.
Yeah.
And an auto shop, where apparently they keep full gas cans next to the roadside flares, right next to the register.
It's not the most inconceivable thing in this movie, but it's up there.
Yeah. But then again, like, we don't know what 80s malls were like.
No.
Like, people did some dumb shit in the 80s, like keeping full cans of gas next to the cash register along with road flares. Like, I'm not saying it never happened, right? But, like, malls were different back then. We don't know. They could have had some weird shit.
I remember our mall had a pond and ducks. That's
cool.
That's about as far as that's the only thing that's, like, decidedly different from today's mall that I can remember from back then.
And you spend a lot of time at the mall nowadays.
Sure do.
Yeah. You could go every morning and do your laps.
Yeah.
So Chopping Mall, it's rated 2.9 overall on Letterboxd. 149 people have it in their 4 favorites, and 31% agree with my 3-star rating, including Crown, who wrote, "What was the Chopping Mall?" That's a fair question.
That is a fair question.
There wasn't a lot of chopping. There was some stabbing.
Yeah, there's definitely some stabbing.
There was no chopping.
No. I'm surprised you only have this at 3 stars.
Yeah, it didn't quite get up to the 4-star level.
Okay.
It does have a little bit of that, like, Death Spa quality to it. I don't know. I'm not saying never, but, like, yeah, it's a pretty solid 3-star trashy 80s horror movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be much more than that, so I'm putting it up on the staff recommendation shelf.
I have this at 3 stars, and I don't know. I could see it going up to 4 for me. I remember considering this for our At the Mall theme.
Oh.
And I watched it, and for some reason, it didn't do a lot for me then, but upon this rewatch, I was getting a big kick out of it.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
It's campy. I wish it had more blood.
For sure.
There's a lot of silly things in it, which is it's part of its charm.
Well, let's keep up with silly things.
Okay.
Because I've got one more movie. And we're going to the Hey You Guys section of the store for my final pick. It is from 1985, and the movie is The Goonies.
Fuck yeah.
Back of the box synopsis, as if anyone needs this. A group of kids from a small town in Oregon known as the Goonies, that's the name for the group of kids, not the town, stumble upon a treasure map that leads them on a wild adventure to find the hidden riches of a legendary pirate One-Eyed Willie. Along the way, they must outwit criminals, evade dangerous traps, and navigate the labyrinthian tunnels beneath the town in order to save their homes from foreclosure. Tagline: they call themselves the Goonies, the secret caves, the old lighthouse, the lost map, the treacherous traps, the hidden adventure, and sloth. Join the adventure. The hidden adventure and sloth join the adventure. This is a fucking awful tagline.
That tagline is labyrinthian.
Yeah. It's insane.
That's not a tagline.
No.
It is a sloppy mess, which I think maybe fits with this movie.
Yeah. So this is directed by Richard Donner. He gave us a bunch of stuff. Superman, Lethal Weapon also.
Yeah.
It is produced by Steven Spielberg. And, I mean, who needs introduced to the Goonies? It's a beloved 80s classic. It's an adventure film. Misfit kids who embark on a treasure hunt. And
not all of the customers are our age. Some of
that's
them are
true.
young.
That's true. Well, yeah, if you haven't seen this, I mean, I can't think of a more... Well, there are some quintessential adventure films from the 80s.
Yes.
This is among the top. Of course, these kids get a little more than they bargained for along the way in hunting for this treasure. We get Sean Astin, Josh Brolin, Corey Feldman is here.
What a cast!
I know. Of course, Data by who's played by Ke Huy Quan, and Margaret Plimpton's here.
Yeah.
But the character of Data is why I chose this.
A gadget man from a gadget family.
Yeah, gadgets are just central to who he is. He's got some pretty ridiculous gadgets up his sleeves, in his coat, in his shoes.
Frankly, not believable.
None of them. I mean, they're ridiculous. Ranging from like a grappling hook built into his belt, shoes that squirt out oil. He's got a boxing glove attached to a spring. I mean, there's some wacky contraptions, sometimes unreliable, sometimes unbelievably reliable.
Yeah.
But, it's in keeping with the crazy hijinks that ensue throughout this movie. I mean, we're divorced from reality in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. I don't mind how weird and wacky these gadgets are. It gives this film some charm. This movie does what I love when kids' movies do, is they kind of tell it with kid logic. If a 10-year-old kid or 9-year-old kid, whatever old these kids are, we're going to tell you a story about them and their friends going on an adventure that afternoon about finding a treasure map and finding the treasure, and then bad guys are after us and da-da-da-da-da. All of this would make sense in that context, and the logic of their storytelling, Yeah.
And so it's like Home Alone is the same way. It's like if a kid was telling that story, like he would make it seem like his parents were away for weeks at a time and whatever, and they were just gone for like 3 or 4 minutes,
Yeah. I mean, I think the Home Alone comparison is terrific because, there's some stuff here that obviously wouldn't happen in real life, obviously, but you don't mind when you see it because it's fun and of course, this is a story that just doesn't seem to get old. So a lot of the gadgets that we see Data use are indeed like practical effects. They actually built these things. I don't know that they built them to work quite the way that we see them, especially like the teeth attached to the slinky that saves him from falling. But yeah, this was a movie that I remember genuinely scaring me when I first saw it. I mean, especially like the introduction to Sloth, some of the booby traps that they encounter along the way. Like there's some, again, real peril here.
And we've been hitting this a lot lately, but it does things in a kid's movie that kids can't possibly understand, and it's definitely not appropriate for them.
Right.
The first shot of the movie is of a guy, like what looks to be a corpse of a guy that has committed suicide. That's the first shot of the movie, is a guy like hanging by the neck.
Yes.
And then we hear talk about sexual torture devices and cocaine and heroin and stuff. And I was like 6 when I saw this movie, and I didn't know what any of that stuff meant, but I knew it was like adult stuff that I'm not supposed to know about.
I mean, there's some implied blender torture that I mean, we don't get, but I mean, just the notion of that, it's terrifying. I mean, Sloth's introduction is scary. There's a lot here that definitely kept me up at night, but it was still a movie that I went back to time and time again. And I mean, I don't know that the level of nostalgia hits for me quite the same way as some of the other movies that I've brought to the shelf, like The Neverending Story and Labyrinth. But I mean, this is still for me a 5-star movie just because of the attachment I have from my youth and the fact that, yeah, you can go back to it as an adult, and there's still so much about it that's really fun. There's still so much about it that they just don't do anymore in kids' movies.
It's a satisfying adventure movie.
Yeah, 100%. So this grossed over $125 million worldwide against a $19 million budget. So definitely a hit. And it has, of course, gone on to become an absolute classic. Averages a 3.8 on Letterboxd. Like I said, I have this at 5 stars, along with 19% of other Letterboxd users. 12,000 people have this among their list of 4 favorites. I picked a 2-star review from Adam Bolt, who said, "If I wanted to hear kids screaming for 2 hours, I would have just booked a flight."
I mean, that's part of the charm of this movie.
Yeah.
It is just fucking chaos with these kids.
Oh, total chaos.
And they're all talking at the same time.
Yeah.
And they're all just they're all kind of just yelling at each other and talking and whatever, not listening. And just and I don't know whose idea it was. I don't know if that was Spielberg or Donner or whoever, who was just just let them fucking do whatever.
Yeah.
And film it.
But it feels real. It feels believable.
Because it feels like that's how they act. Yeah. That's how kids talk to each other. They don't listen to each other.
No.
They're just screaming whatever's in their fucking head at the time.
Yes. Fun to go back to.
It's a classic.
Rob, we talked about a lot of gadgets tonight.
We did.
Maybe even some whatchamacallits. I don't know that we got into any gizmos. Did anything qualify as a gizmo? Some of Data's stuff does make noises. There's some sound effects associated with those. So
yeah, I'm gonna have to recheck my notes. Look for some gizmos.
Yeah. When you add them all together, though, you get 6 films that amount to one fine staff recommendation shelf. And the movies we chose are Enemy of the State, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Nope, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Chopping Mall, and The Goonies.
If you don't have time to stop into the store, you can visit us 24 hours a day at rewindvideopod.com. We're on Letterboxd and Blue Sky, or send us an email at rewindvideopod@gmail.com. You can get on that email game.
Yeah, I mean, it's hot.
And don't forget to follow, subscribe to, and share the podcast with all of your friends who love movies.
Please do. Please do. Rob, I want to tell you about our next theme, but can you keep it on the DL?
No. Have you seen my email account?
Well, I was going to say nobody can know about this because the next theme is secrets. Secrets. But I guess it's out now. So, I mean, not the episode, but the subject.
I mean, we did whisper it, so maybe they didn't hear.
That's possible. As usual, we'll have 6 movies to recommend, but if you're looking for something in the meantime, feel free to hit us up for a movie to watch, and we will see you next time.
Be kind, recommend.